Couples do tend to fight now and then. Sometimes those fights become physical. Sometimes they result in murder. However, it isn't often that the cause of death is being pounced on and crushed under your girlfriend's weight.
Shout out WB!
We've covered a lot of strange cases on this channel, and we've covered a lot of murders between couples. This is a very unique one though, and I'm sure just from the title alone you already know what's in store. So with that out of the way, let's get started. Keno Butler, who went by the name Loco, was born on August 14, 1973. Born in Meadville, Pennsylvania, he was raised alongside 9 siblings in a pretty solid environment. He was known to have been a member of his local church, the St. John Missionary Full Gospel Baptist Church in Meadville. He loved his pets, and he was fairly interested in music and dancing. He was also known to have worked pretty hard at his job. Eventually, he had a daughter, and this daughter brought him a grandchild. Things really went downhill with Keno when he came to meet another woman, that being a woman his age named Wendy Thomas, who also seems to have grown up in Meadville. Wendy wasn't thought of quite as well as Keno was, with it being fairly evident to many that she was an alcoholic. Having met in at least 2015, but probably prior, the two of them would enter into a very chaotic on-again, off-again relationship. Even on social media, Wendy made it evident that she was less than stable. She would often vaguely, but publicly post about how she was crying, never actually giving a reason. At some point, she even clarified that she didn't know the reason that she was crying herself. At one point, she wrote, "I'm so sick of chasing down my tears trying to figure out what I'm crying about." On other days, she would publicly complain about being broke and alone and having no friends. Now and then, she would claim to have broken up with Keno, such as in this post where she wrote, "Nowhere to live sucks. Hopefully find something Monday after work. And newly single. What a wonderful life. Not." But she would tend to come back within a few days and speak of being with Keno normally as if nothing had ever happened. In fact, shortly after that previous post was made, she came back to relay this information in a way that was more shocking than usual. This time, she was telling her Facebook friends that she hadn't responded to them in a while because she had actually been in a coma for 5 days. She wrote, "Have been at Meadville Med Center since August 6th on ventilator and coma 5 days. If anyone has been looking for me and Keno in jail with my phones, just got out of ICU to regular floor, call me." It isn't really clear what she meant by "in jail with my phones." It seems unlikely that Keno would actually be in possession of both of their phones in jail. This may have been some sort of an instance of erratic writing or maybe a joke. It would be a few days before she would shine some light on what exactly landed her in the hospital, and it appeared to be something related to either drugs or alcohol. She informed her followers that she, quote, "might get discharged to Stepping Stones later or tomorrow." Stepping Stones is a rehab clinic in Meadville, Pennsylvania. In fact, Stepping Stones is the name of a program featured at that clinic, one that helps the patient take steps to recover from addiction. In a post she made 2 months later, where she spoke of still being in recovery, she finally clarified that it was indeed alcohol poisoning that landed her in the coma, calling it the family curse. Keno's family was well aware that Wendy was a bit of a train wreck, emotionally all over the place and clearly unstable, and they made no secret of this. They would plainly discuss how they felt that she was dangerous. Sometimes they even brought it up to Keno himself. Keno's sister was particularly worried about how Wendy behaved. She later stated, "They even stayed at my house and I asked her, 'Don't kill my brother.'" At the time, she may have been speaking in hyperbole. However, it would soon be revealed that her fears were more than justified. This brings us to the evening of March 18th, 2018. At this point in the story, Keno and Wendy had moved from Meadville to Erie, Pennsylvania. They shared an apartment together on East Avenue. After living together for quite some time, Keno had gotten pretty tired of Wendy's substance abuse. At this point, it wasn't even only alcohol anymore. She had, for a while, been dabbling in a bit of nose candy as well. All day, Wendy had been drinking excessively. She decided that she wanted to spice things up by adding some crack to the mix. Keno apparently wasn't happy about this, but Wendy didn't seem to pay him any mind. She left the apartment to go buy some of her favorite snack. Eventually, she returned to the apartment, substance in hand. She sat down on the couch with Keno before getting into an argument with him.
"Wendy wants a rock right now."
The argument was reported to have been in relation to Wendy's rampant drug and alcohol abuse. Wendy didn't take kindly to the criticism at all. She opened up a folding knife and slashed Kino across the hand with it. Then she continued to slice him across the neck and face. This led to a struggle, with Kino fighting back and trying to get the knife away from her. While fighting, Wendy picked up a loose table leg, one with the bolt still protruding out of it, and began to hit Kino with it, striking him in the head in the process. After taking the hit, Kino returned to the couch to sit down. Wendy wouldn't let it end there, though. There is one key piece of information when it comes to understanding the next part of her attack. Kino was quite the small guy, while Wendy was an extra large. Kino weighed only about 120 pounds, while Wendy weighed over 300. That's about 54 kilos versus...
See, Kino, that's where you fucked up right there. You can't do that, man. You can't do that. I mean, if you're going to get a plushie, you got to make sure she's on the straight and narrow. Because you don't want some 300-pound wildebeest fucking slithered and coke rocked out of her fucking gourd. It's not going to end well for you, bruh.
36 kilos for all of the non-Americans out there. Wendy jumped on top of Kino as he lied on the couch. This injured him, but she didn't stop there. She continued to lie on top of him, later admitting that she placed her head on the couch in such a way to ensure that every bit of Kino's body was covered by at least some of her fat. By the end of the attack, Kino was left with at least 90 injuries. These were everything from the initial knife wound to the bruises from the table leg to even more bruising from Wendy jumping on top of him. Ultimately, though, it was being crushed by her that had been the killing blow. After the attack, Wendy simply went to bed and crashed. She woke up the next morning, seemingly unaware that Kino was even dead. She didn't really even check on him all too well, instead opting to leave the apartment to go buy some more crack. While the story was already very unusual up to this point, this is where it gets even more odd. One of Wendy's friends was a woman named Jessica Hoopsick, a woman connected to the infamous pizza bomber case. This was the well-known case where a man named Brian Wells had a bomb locked around his neck in 2003 and was forced to engage in some robberies. While it was later argued that he might have been involved in the attack himself, the bomb did explode, killing him. Jessica Hoopsick had been a fairly obscure player in the already complex case for years until she spoke out on a 2018 Netflix documentary called Evil Genius. She admitted to being the victim's favorite prostitute. She said that she met with the victim about 2 times a month for 5 years, getting a lot of money from him in the process. Jessica was also heavily addicted to crack, which she would get from the victim often. She testified at the trial that the victim and the man who set up the crime were known to each other, but it wasn't until the Netflix documentary that she admitted to helping set the victim up for robbery. Well, as it turns out, this shared love for crack brought the two criminals together. After killing Kino, Wendy approached Jessica and asked to buy some of the drug off of her. Whether or not she was successful isn't quite known, but it is known that they spoke for a while before Wendy eventually decided to head back home. Once Wendy got back to the apartment, she noticed that Kino still hadn't moved. After checking up on him, it was very obvious that he was dead. Wendy wasn't all too perplexed about what had happened. She was well aware that she had been the one to kill him. She decided to call 911 herself, and she plainly admitted to as much on the phone call. She told the dispatcher, plainly, "I killed my boyfriend." The police came out to the scene and found that Kino's body was now lying on the living room floor. Nearby, they noticed a table leg with the bolt sticking out that was covered in blood. Kino was clearly already long gone. Wendy told the police that she had been drinking a lot and was looking to purchase some crack when the two of them got into an argument. She claimed that the whole thing was carried out in a drunken rage. The medical examiner later determined that Kino's death was caused by respiratory failure due to blunt force trauma to the neck and chest compression. They noted that the head trauma he suffered had been another aggravating factor in his death. Wendy was taken off to jail for more questioning. It was quite evident that she was looking at some heavy charges. It was decided that she would face charges of third-degree murder, assault, and endangerment. She was looking at a pretty lengthy trial, all things considered. A month after the attack took place, over 50 people...
Third-degree murder. Third. Reverse them roles. Spin that shit around. Imagine if Kino's 300 pounds and Wendy's a petite little thing. And Kino slashes her up, busts her upside the head with the table leg a couple times, and then fucking asphyxiates her with his fat fucking ass. He'll be lucky not to get first-degree murder. He's at least getting second degree. At least. He'd be lucky not to get first. Fuck out of here, third degree.
Outside what had been Keno and Wendy's apartment to pay their respects to Keno. In attendance were family, friends, and even others as well. Jessica Hoopsick, now finding herself involved in another sensational murder trial, was called down to the police station to give her own testimony. She told them that Wendy had indeed tried to buy some drugs off of her that day and that they had spoken. She was told that she would likely be subpoenaed to court to testify in the trial later down the road. When Wendy's hearings finally came about, her court-appointed lawyer, a man named Mark Del Duca, was quick to blame the entire attack on drugs and alcohol. He even took the chance to partially blame Keno as well, saying that he had been drinking too. He did, however, admit that Wendy was the only one on the drugs. He said, "Both parties were extremely intoxicated. My client had ingested quite a bit of crack cocaine." However, the prosecutor wasn't quite so charitable. He said that Keno had suffered 92 different traumatic injuries to a large portion of his body in 3 separate but connected attacks. First with the knife, then with the table leg, then by the crushing. He said, "This was an attack that was incredibly violent and it was incredibly depraved." Before the trial even came about, Wendy decided to go ahead and accept a plea deal. This deal would result in her facing the third-degree murder charge while dropping the assault and endangerment charges. Even so, her lawyer still argued that she had mistakenly fallen on top of Keno while completely drunk.
Okay.
This went against her own statements that she intentionally covered every part of his body. Wendy's court-appointed attorney was pretty happy with this turn of events, feeling that it was the best possible outcome all things considered. He said to the media, "It's a good result based upon the facts of the case. I think it's fair for both sides."
We think it's in the best interest of everybody involved. We were, obviously, it's an unfortunate situation for everybody, but I think that this guilty plea and the recommendation that we've made to the court will be beneficial for all parties involved.
She was originally looking up to 40 years in prison, but with the 2 dropped charges, she was looking at an incarceration of 18 to 36 years instead. When the sentencing came around, it appeared that this was the fate she was looking at. That meant that, with good behavior, she could be paroled in as little as 18 years. She would be near her mid-60s by the time she was released, but many argued that that still wasn't near enough.
It's not.
Sandra Butler, Keno's sister, said that the family expected a sentence much harsher than what she had actually gotten. They urged the judge to lock her away for longer. Sandra said, "I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm in pain. I can't get my brother back. She meant to kill him. She destroyed his body." The prosecutor, however, felt that this was probably the most they could have gotten. He said, "When you count all the factors, including the level of violence and the mental states of everyone involved, it's a pretty good resolution."
With the result, it's what we were asking for, it's what we were hoping for, it's what we expected. 18 to 36 years just means she'll be incarcerated at least through 2035 and hopefully longer. And knowing the violence of the offense and as well as the other factors, we think that that's an appropriate resolution.
Wendy herself was asked if she had anything to say upon her sentencing. She quietly muttered, "I want to apologize to the family, and I'm very sorry." Keno's family wasn't amused, with Sandra saying, "I thought she should have done more. As the judge said, she tried to kill him." Sandra later told the Erie Times News that the family was still coping with the loss. They all had hoped for Wendy to be punished much more harshly than what she actually ended up with. She said, "I feel like she should have 40 or more. She deserved life. My mother, she calls for him every night." More recently, the case has been making the rounds on social media, mainly on TikTok and Instagram Reels. More than not, it's connected to a very likely completely unrelated video. This is evident by the fact that in the video, the man appears to be much younger than Keno and, more notably, uninjured. It was noted by the police that Keno had been covered in blood from being cut with a knife and struck with the table leg. As of the making of this video, Wendy is still rotting away in prison. Officially, nothing much has been said about the case ever since the trial ended.
Even with this traumatic event, the Butler sisters are still able to remember the good times they shared with him.
Because Keno always said, "I'm a man." And he always said, and every time we tell him, "Sit down, Keno," he says, "I'm a man, don't tell me what to do."
Once again, thank you for watching my video. If you found it interesting, please give it a like as it really helps me out in the algorithm, and feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. These days, I have open a store with a merchandise that is in it. I also have an application with a
R.I.P. Keno. Swole, swole, swole. Big Foam, I know that you're a man of color and you're a man of a small stature like Keno. And I also know that you happen to have a penchant for the for those large white ladies, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing. But you heard what happened to Keno. You work in a grocery store. So my advice to you is, chase all the water buffalo you want, dog. That's on you. But when you catch one, keep snacks in your pockets. You work at the grocery store. Keep various snacks in various pockets. That way, if she goes off the deep end like this bitch right here, just, throw a fucking snack and run. Because she's going to go after the snack before she goes after you. Then you can get away. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's all fun and games until you get a crazy fat bitch. A crazy fat white bitch. Because a crazy fat black bitch, yeah, she'll cuss you out. She might cut your tires. But she ain't gonna kill you. No, she's not gonna kill you. A crazy fat white bitch will kill you. Yeah. Yeah. Go fuck yourselves.